Hola and welcome to Josef's Model Railway and Toy Room. Thank you as always for joining me. Just a little bit of housekeeping. You don't need to like, follow or subscribe to any of the videos that I put out there. I just put them out there where I can and have a holly jolly great time doing so. Now in the previous video I was standing in exactly this spot talking to you about, look at this, we've pulled the foam board out of the ceiling now, we're starting to carve it up and we're getting ready to build our hillside of which Faulty Towers will be sitting on with the petroleum depot that we looked at last week. Now, it's just another quick one following the same process because beside or behind the petroleum depot, if you like, will be the substation that we're going to drop into place now. This pretty much now is almost completing a quarter of that loop at that point in time. I've got a surprise which we'll be seeing in the next couple of videos, which is happening on the corner. And of course, as I said, Faulty Towers will be constructed there. We've got the equestrian scene over on the far right corner, and of course looking toward me on this right corner is the pedestrian walkway, which we're going to create a bit of a forestry nature trail that they're going to walk down into. But there's still a little sliver of room we've got, and that's got another surprise for another day. But in the meantime, the substation. And as I did make mention before in the petroleum depot video, I was talking about how I custom carved and did the concreting and things like that. Now, there's a bit of overlap because the scenes had to join up. So where you might have wondered how I did some of this, we're going to cover that in today's video, particularly with the asphalt and what I'm doing there to create the semi-broken down roadway that's been there for a bit inside the actual substation compound itself. It's quite simple. We're going to keep reusing the same fencing you saw me talk about in the previous video. However, we will see a bit more static grass, a couple of key trees on this one, which I really think is good, some personalized signage, and of course the picture that's probably already sucked you in at the moment. That last minute idea about, it would look good if I could create a little bit of a chain and a padlock, which of course is just scrap bits put together and a whole bunch of glue and sticking your fingers together. So let's grab our sticky fingers and dive in and check out what we've been up to with installing the substation.
Let's dive in, shall we? Well, we just grabbed the laser out and we need to get some key measurements to make sure it's all going to fit in the right polarity. Again, what do you think looks better? Sitting it this way or sitting it that way? There's a lot of playing around that, of course, we always do with model railway, isn't there? To make sure that it does look aesthetically pleasing to the eye when we come down and look at it. So I did spend just a bit of time in different angles, and you can see it putting a little bit of the rock wall that's going to go behind it, to give that right sort of perspective and positioning. So as you recall, the concreting we did in the fuel depot, we just laid down some grey paint and brown paint. You obviously didn't see that in the previous video, but not that we really need it. And then I'm actually just using a balsa wood, but of course a fine cut styrene would be better. Well, I just lay a bit of AK interactive concrete straight over the top, and then using a blade, I just score in expansion joints, and just using the blade just hack out a few potholes and cracks and markings. Taking a little bit of the AK asphalt now and just using a little spatula, we just spread that on as needed. We're busy getting our other bits of the petroleum depot put together.
Okay, welcome back again. So we're just working on this project at the moment. So this is going to come down in a slipway where the petroleum depot, there'll be a secured fence, but this will be the access point for our workers to get down to the substation. So we'll gate it off here. And this was an asphalted section that's just sort of crumbling away as required as the trucks come over to do whatever they need to do. Now, while we're not finished, actually, I've still got to go over it with a brush and all the rest of this. I did want to just add a little bit of murky water into the bottom of these puddles as if we've had a little shower or something like that. I don't have the murky water. I've only got olive drab, but we're going to mix a little bit of olive drab up with a couple of drops of realistic water and just use our eyedropper and get it in. See if we can do something. But first, let's get a brush and clean this up at the moment. We won't get too carried away because we're only going to feature these two puddle bits, and there's still some actual glue drying around these edges, but I just want to put a couple of drops in here and see how we go. We're also going to need an old brush just to tease it out a little bit, I believe. To mix it up, just one of our old DCC Concepts packages. I love these things. we've got this beautiful place to decant what we need. So what we're going to do is take a few drops of realistic water. That's way too much already. And maybe even only a drop of this. We'll add 2, but I really think 1 is all you need there. So let's mix it up. I'd like it to be a little bit lighter, to tell you the truth. 1 drop probably would have been all right, but this is kind of what I'm looking for. And that's probably all we're going to need. So again, in this application, you probably want this on a level surface. Something I'm never good at because I always seem to have everything going on. Now this hasn't been sealed underneath. So just like a PVA, expect this to wander off and do what it needs to do. So we'll just give that a moment to sort of create a little bit of a skin for where it's going to sit. And what we're going to do, it might seem just a little high at the moment, but we're actually going to just let that dry, and that's actually going to sink off, as I've explained before with realistic water. After about 1 to 3 months, it's sort of going to give a little bit of shrinkage, particularly because this is a porous material, just some balsa wood. It's going to drink in, but that's it. I mean, I could come in with our Citadel and create a dried up puddle, but I'd want to give a little bit of moisture, looking, as I said, that it's had a little drop of rain on it. So we'll just leave this at the moment.
Now that we've got our road section starting to take shape, we can now get them into place and give them a nice little bit of a glue down. We, of course, weight it down and leave it to dry overnight. But I think you can see we're starting to get a bit of shape here. Weighting it down can never be underestimated. And we also start to build a little bit of a gravel shoulder around the actual substation frame. And we're just using the larger ballast on that. And just pay attention quickly to the stonework, because I did want to keep that height, but when the original static grass went in, I accidentally dumped the wrong bit on because the hopper wasn't put together properly. Well, it is what it is now, but I lost a bit of my beautiful definition.
Fencing, less than 60 seconds. I regret I didn't actually film how I did this, but basically you'll get this on the sprue, dump these straight into your kitchen sink or what have you, and then just simply taking a little bit of your light wash, put it straight onto a sponge and dab them in the sink, backwards, forwards. And of course, once you've done a few, it takes less than 30 seconds to do all of these. Leave them, take a bit of paper towel, wet it just a little bit, and then just drag it to soften it off a little bit. And then give it about 20 minutes in the sun to dry off. Then you just take a little bit of rust on a sponge, just dab, 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 and you're giving it that rust effect. Final effect is we need to give it a bit of a concrete footing we need to sit it on. Some offcuts of timber from scale model scenery that we've got with the laser cut kits. And I've just taken a little bit of AK interactive concrete, put it on, let it dry, and that's how they'll sit. And that's all I'm going to do.
Yes, this concrete footing idea seems like a good idea, just to give it a bit of definition, because that's generally how these substations are contained. Now you can see I'm very happy with what we were doing with the stonework here. Again, I was just using some larger ballast. Actually, that's just a bit of buff on the side of that roadway there. But you can see how we've sort of elevated up to give it a bit of detail. And what I'm basically doing here is just coming in, drilling a quick hole because we're going to put a floodlight in. And as you can see, what I'm actually doing is I took a laser here, and now we're just installing that concrete footing around. Again, it needed to be elevated even more because of some undulations from some of the other landscaping nearby. Now we're just going to take a little bit of our AK Interactive muddy wet dirt type of stuff, but then we come in and dust it over with just the regular soil from the garden that's been sifted down, and just trying to bring it up. There are two distinct heights here from the substation. This angle's not quite good because we haven't gone through with a vacuum cleaner, but I think you get what I'm trying to do. And I did lose a bit too much. I did want to see still a little more definition in those stones around the side, but that's okay. At least you can see during the build process of what it was that it did look like. And around the back end near the stonework, I still got what I was looking for, so that's okay. And as you can see, this is looking quite good now, and it does really look like a concrete footing waiting for a fence to go onto it. So I really think the scene is starting to take good shape, and the position is perfect. So a quick suck and tickle with our vacuum cleaner at the moment, and we're starting to get that height looking just right. We can now prepare ourselves for getting some static grass to start layering into the area as required. Of course, time is of the essence, so you can see I usually carry a little heater not far away that I can usually leave on the scene to get some slightly faster drying time, as there's no natural breeze in this room at all. And what a disaster, I forgot to actually turn the machine on. That's why we got such an almighty dumping there. I lost so much definition in that static grass, but it's okay. We've managed to do what we needed to do, but I lost a lot of definition between the two levels because of that. Make sure you have it on before you tip it upside down. Top tip. There are so many wonderful videos out there on YouTube explaining static grass and how to layer it up. I still have yet to actually do a video covering this, and I've still been holding a lot of footage back regarding it, but I will give you my top tips for doing it. Coming later on, I've still probably far from mastered the art of this, but basically it's just a series of building up the layers, the sizes, adding bits of flocking here and there, and just breaking it up so it really does look a little more natural rather than just one solid color. As mentioned before, some crushed leaves and the push pins in different colors represent the different trees that are going to go in those locations. Of course, the crushed up leaves with a little bit of diluted PVA glue around it really does cement a wonderful foundation for your trees. And if you look carefully, mine's actually been built up on 2 layers because I wanted to give it a little bit more of a natural mound or curve that the root ball naturally develops and sort of pushes up, as opposed to just being complete flat ground and the trunk of a tree coming out of it. If you look carefully, there's generally just a little bit of detail where the root work is at the base of the tree, which over time with the dirt and other dead foliage beneath it creates a little bit of a mound, and that's what I wanted to do in this particular scene. That's going to become a little more clear when you see what's on the other side of this train track. As always, a quick bit of homework, and let's see what some of the other substations in the world look like. Everything from New Zealand through to Australia here. And you can see it's a pretty simple arrangement. The concrete footings are around it, and of course there's usually some sort of a building and or box that houses something similar to this, transformer or some other equipment. And Bush in this instance make the Trafo Station HO 1570. Hey, it's a nice simple pre-done kit in the colours we need. It goes together very simply. I must say, whether it be Knock or Bush, even Fowler, their packaging is second to none. I mean, for what is just a simple little flat packed kit, the box is just extraordinary. And if you do pay careful attention as we just quickly put it together, and of course it's just PVA glue just dobbed in, it only takes a few moments, you'll notice, yes, that is a hair tie. I've used a couple, which secures the outer walling onto it and holds it very well. So a top tip there. Custom made chain and padlock from some little offcuts, which is actually the tinsel or garland that was used on our feature Christmas tree.
Yes, I just put the lights on here because you're probably getting sick of seeing me standing in this pose, in this position that you've seen me for the past 3 sections of this 2-part series. So girls and boys, ladies and gentlemen, thank you as always for joining me on this mighty expedition of building my dream model railway. And I must say that I'm well ahead of schedule, and I couldn't be more happier with the results that we're yielding at the moment. It ticks the right box of being approachable, fun, and a level of realism that is very achievable. I'm not trying to go on an exhibition trying to win awards, and I probably won't be featured in the next upcoming Model Railway magazine, but there's still something that keeps drawing the eye in. A simplicity that makes anyone say, I could do that, and I'd love to have a model railway or a train set. And on the flip side, it's complete and utter satisfaction, because once this is more at that 99% completion, and yes, I always will keep using the word 99% complete, because no model railway is ever truly complete. You're always constantly doing and adding more things. But for the actual scenery topside section that we're doing, this whole thing is really unraveling pretty close to what was in my head originally. Give or take some options, but for the most part, and some of those options have exceeded what I thought it was going to be. This has got to be one of them. I always thought it was going to be a bit of a green mountain back here with some trees on it. And yes, of course, the homemade trees do look far more interesting than some of the pre-done ones. And of course, with a backdrop, it'll look even better. But this still just has something that keeps sucking the eye in for all its simplicity, because as we saw in that video, and if you haven't seen it, please do look somewhere in this direction for the link to take you there. Because the whole process was literally just cutting some of this foam board up. I put paint on it, and then I started sprinkling the static grass on it and gluing a few little bits of stone and dusting in a little bit of the pastel to create what we've got here. Some crushed up leaves underneath those trees there. That's it. That's all I did. It was so simple, and I yielded this amazing result in literally only a matter of a couple of days. But until the next one, please do stay safe. We've got a great big surprise coming up for you in just a moment on that corner I'm talking about. That is directly above where the DCC controller and point operation all is. So literally directly across from our canal. But until then, as always, please do stay safe, and we'll see you in the next one. Toodles!